Coming to you live from a Walmart parking lot in a men's restroom, this is Thicc Man Inc.
Welcome back, viewers. We are live here once again with your host, Tristan Kilgannon, and ESPN featured athlete, Isaiah Ashley. We took a couple weeks off, but we are back. As always, we hope you enjoy the video. Let us know what you think down below. Subscribe. And starting off today, we are going to begin with the Ravens versus another big win for the Ravens in the past 4 weeks. And for me, this effectively took Deshaun Watson out of the MVP conversation. He threw for 169 yards, threw an interception, lost a fumble, and his opponent, Lamar Jackson, threw for 222 yards, 4 touchdowns, and added on 79 yards on the ground. And the Ravens are so much better than everyone else at this point. I don't see, with the teams they've beaten in the Texans, Patriots, and Seahawks, the combined record of those teams are 23-7. They've outscored those teams 108-43. I don't know what happened since the Browns game, but they've just been demolishing everyone.
Yeah, for once, I'm going to call Lamar Jackson a quarterback because he finally got outrushed by one of his running backs. Gus Edwards had a massive day, 14 yards per carry, 112 yards on the ground, and a rushing touchdown. But that's not who we're going to talk about. Lamar torched the Texans with 222 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 79 big ones on the ground, and was sacked 0 times. A phenomenal performance by one of the best young players in the league. Sadly, not all young quarterbacks had a great day. Deshaun Watson looked like he had filled up on too many Popeye spicy chicken sandwiches. He was slow in the pocket. He wasn't that much of a mobile threat. His O-line was questionable, and he was just getting pounded all over the place. As you already said, he had a lackluster day in terms of the stats, 169 nice yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. It takes him out in the MVP race. I agree with you on that. But speaking of the MVP race, I think you and I both agree that this is a 2-person race. And some of the Carolina fans may get upset about that, and let me tell you why you're wrong before we get into it. That Caucasian in Charlotte could put up as many empty yards as he wants, but he is not going to do what Adrian Peterson, the last running back to win MVP, did. He isn't going to be able to carry the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs. Not even able to get them to a winning record in the easiest part of their schedule. They're 5-5 right now. On the bright side for him, he's a 9-9 overall in Madden now, so at least he's got that to fall back on.
I completely agree with you on the Christian McCaffrey point. When your team's only 5-5, I don't think you have a good argument for being the most valuable player in the league. I think you need to at least get 10 wins. You need to at least win your division. And like you said, there's only 2 players right now that are in the MVP conversation, Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson. However, I think Lamar Jackson is the most deserving of the 2. He's thrown for 2,200 yards, 19 touchdowns. He's thrown 5 interceptions, and he has 781 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. He is on pace to break the single-season rushing record for a quarterback by over 210 yards set by Michael Vick in 2006. Michael Vick had 1,138 rushing yards that year. And when you look at another running quarterback who's won an MVP, Cam Newton in 2015. Cam Newton threw for 3,800 yards. Lamar Jackson, if he stays on the same pace, is on pace for 3,600 yards. Cam Newton had 36 passing touchdowns in 2015. Lamar's on pace for 30. And his rushing numbers, of course, blow Cam's rushing numbers out of the water in 2015. So when you look at another MVP season, I think it's clear-cut that Lamar Jackson is on pace, and it's really his to lose at this point.
Well, here's why you're wrong, and here's why you should feel bad about it. I could talk about Russell Wilson dominating Lamar Jackson in passing yards. I could talk about, despite all the little fancy footwork Lamar's been up to, Russ still has more touchdowns than him total. I could talk about a lot of stuff like that, but I'm going to talk about something else. Both of these teams right now are 8-2. One of these teams is in the NFC West, a division which has 3 possible playoff teams. I don't know what we want to call the Rams, but certainly the 49ers and the Seahawks. The other plays in the AFC North, where one team is actively tanking and the other 2 are beating each other over the head with helmets. I don't know about all that for competition. One of these guys is Mark Ingram, Willie Snead, Hollywood Brown, Gus Edwards, and a top 10 defense, maybe a top 5, a phenomenal group and a phenomenal collection of talent on the other side of the ball. The other guy's got Tyler Lockett, a bunch of late-round picks, and a defense which has been completely disassembled. And yet, they both have 8 wins. Right now, if you took Russell Wilson off that team, they would be competing for the first overall pick. And if you took Lamar Jackson off that team, I could see how they'd still win their division.
I beg to differ.
It is the most valuable player, not the best player.
But the system for the Ravens is built around Lamar Jackson. You know, RG3 is not Lamar Jackson, and that's who their starting quarterback would be. Maybe, they would have picked up the phone to see what Cap can still do. You never know if Lamar Jackson is a team, but the offense is built around him. That being said, I also agree with you on Russell Wilson. If you take him out of that offense, they're going nowhere.
I'd ask you to name the Seahawks backup quarterback, but I know you can't.
I can't. But, I think when it comes to that, it's exactly equal just because how much the Ravens offense is built around Lamar Jackson's ability to run the ball and also pass the ball off of that. They have 3 tight ends that can run block and pass block, and they have 2 or 3 running backs that are all really good. So, but if you take Lamar out of that system, this RPO, teams preparing for the run, then passing, isn't going to work. And the 3 tight ends probably look a lot worse.
You realize that with worse personnel last year, that they had a 500 record with Joe Flacco as their starter, right?
Yeah.
So, and Joe Flacco, you and I both agree, is a major, major, major downgrade. Correct?
100%.
I'm saying if you put the equivalent of Joe Flacco in this offense, it'd take a little bit of adjusting of scheme, but they'd still be a functional team. If you put him in Seattle, they'd be a dumpster fire. They would be tanking for Tua. I'm going to switch gears here. Call me LeVar Ball. Let's talk about those other 2 teams in the AFC North for a little bit.
And we covered this earlier. What was it, last week?
Last week.
No, not earlier.
Link in the
we covered
description
this last week
for you
earlier.
loyal viewers who missed the upload.
And Isaiah felt some type of way about my Mason Rudolph's actions. Felt Myles Garrett was a little bit slighted. Myles Garrett bashed Rudolph over the head. And now, as more has come out, Myles Garrett had his hearing, and he's now accusing Mason Rudolph of using a racial slur.
Before we get into the accusations, first we must note the NFL's upheld their suspensions on Garret. He's still out indefinitely, which the NFL cannot legally do based off of a deal they have with the Players Association, but since when does the NFL care about doing things the right way? Larry Ogunjoku is still out for 1 game. Pouncey got 3 games reduced to 2. I'm a big fan of that. Got to beat the shit out of anyone who messes with the quarterback, pardon my French. And Rudolph the red-nosed racist still did not get any sort of punishment.
And for me, it's not clear at all what actually happened here, because you have Mason Rudolph denying the claim. You have teammates backing him up, teammates that were right next to him when the altercation was going down. But then you also have Rudolph earlier in the week saying to a reporter that he didn't say any words to Garrett on the field during the altercation, which how can you even claim that when you're seen yelling at Garrett, chasing after him? So that makes no sense either. But and you also have teams backing up teammates backing up Myles Garrett saying, Demarius Randall is the one who said this, I've never known Myles as a liar. I've never known him to get that out of character, especially on the field. When it first happened, it was his initial thought that Rudolph said something racist. So I think it's really up in the air. I don't know if we're ever going to get solution to this. And to add on to that, why didn't Garrett say this right after the game that Rudolph was being racist? Because then he probably avoids suspension completely, and they're looking at Garrett, and the Steelers are maybe even forced by the NFL to cut him.
I think you're wrong about that, but we're never going to be able to prove one way or the other what Rudolph said or didn't say. But just looking at Rudolph, I'd say there's like a 76% chance he threw around some unpleasantries. And the NFL won't do anything about this, because he's a quarterback, and they don't have the balls to step up and punish a guy who may or may not have been bashed in the head with a helmet. It's a really cowardly move by the league. He should get something regardless of how the fight ended.
Speaking of the NFL and players getting punished or not being in the NFL anymore, Antonio Brown has recently apologized to Robert Kraft. And for those of you who don't know, Antonio Brown was feeling some type of way when the Patriots cut him on September 20th. Due to sexual assault allegations. And he fired out several angry tweets on September 22nd, complaining about how he lost $40 million in guaranteed money from getting cut by the Raiders and getting cut by the Patriots. And he set out, one tweet he sent out called out Robert Kraft's massage parlor allegations. And I'm assuming the billionaire owner wouldn't feel too good about that and even consider Dak who said that and didn't apologize for it.
Well, here's the thing. Antonio Brown has finally hired himself a social media manager, which is a strange thing to say considering it looks like he's running out of money. Why else would he be groveling at the feet of the man who he publicly accused of hiring Asian prostitutes to service him? And then immediately go begging for his job back on Twitter. It could be that, or the fact these have really good grammar and punctuation all throughout the tweets. That's a little bit shaky. That makes me think social media managers in play. Or there is a wizard in the Central Michigan English department teaching this man how to write and how to fluently communicate his ideas over Twitter in 140 characters. Brown also posted a video today of him running routes with a Raiders helmet and Steelers pants on, so that was pretty funny.
And, at first I even thought the tweet was genuine. I thought he wasn't genuine, sorry. I thought that he did not really want to be signed by the Patriots, but was rather trying to save face and was trying to get signed by a team like the Eagles, showing that he can apologize. He also had his hearing with the NFL, so maybe the NFL told him, if you're ever going to be back in this league, you need to publicly apologize to Robert Kraft. But I don't know how an Instagram post with a 3-line caption is enough to apologize. It seems like something where he would have to hold a press conference and apologize. Yeah. It doesn't seem genuine at all.
Maybe Antonio needs to go work in one of those massage bars to get back on Mr. Kraft's good side. But since you brought up the Eagles, I'll take this moment to tell you viewers about a fun little stat I found out today. The Eagles wide receivers this year have 93 receptions in total. Michael Thomas has 94. He also has more yards than the entire Eagles receiving corps put together at this point in the year. Not really relevant to what we're saying. I just find that hilarious.
I didn't know about that. That's kind of embarrassing for them. And the Patriots, they could also use a receiver. Maybe why Antonio Brown sent out the tweet. They've been struggling mightily. They're 24th in yards per play, in total offensive yards per play, and they're also 19th in the league in passing touchdowns, behind teams such as the Giants, who Isaiah calls their quarterback Danny Pennies. And the Patriots have less passing touchdowns than them.
Yeah, the team which lost to the Jets. But we'll have to wait and see what goes on in the Antonio Brown saga. A fun and eventful little viewing process, to be sure. Bouncing it to the north, we have Mitchell Trubisky and him wandering on to Sunday Night Football with Jared Goff. And those two had a duel in prime time. Both of them put up mediocre numbers. Mitchell Trubisky clearly had the worst night.
Is that what you call a duel?
In some ways it is. Clearly had the worst night. 43 pass attempts. I think 23 completions, something terrible like that. No touchdowns, interception. And limped off the field with an injured hip. And many in the media have taken to calling this injury a benching. And I'll let you give your thoughts on that, Tristan, before I jump into it.
I'm hesitant to call it a benching, but I'm also, what kind of coach takes his number 2 overall pick quarterback out of a game with 3:43 left and a chance to win? A slight chance, but still a chance. His hip, Mitchell was saying his hip was getting tighter and tighter, is throwing with a lot of arm, unable to make plays. And, newsflash, Mitchell, you're very rarely able to make plays. Any of the top 20 quarterbacks in this league with a tight hip are staying in the football game with their chance of having a team to win. So, and do not spew that. He has 1,580 passing yards in the season, only 9 passing touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. The Bears are 30th in passing yards, 24th in passing touchdowns, and they would be even lower, the worst team in the league, if it wasn't for Chase Daniel's 3 touchdown passes. So,
well, here's the thing. I get what you're saying, and to some extent you're right, but you have to keep in mind, Mitch did dislocate his shoulder earlier on the season. No arm, but that's still a big issue. But I'm not willing to forgive Mitch. He's had a bad night. He's had a bad series of nights. It's been terrible. But he does not deserve anywhere close to the amount of blame Matt Nagy deserves. Matt Nagy has gone from one of the most promising young coaches in the league to someone who looks completely inept on a weekly basis. Why are you passing the ball 40-plus times over and over again when you have a QB who has struggled with accuracy and is coming off an injury? It doesn't make any sense. Why are you running so little with this current QB situation? And when you run, why are you running into that wood chipper of a Rams front seven when you have Tyreek Cohen, one of the most elusive and evasive backs in the league? Why not just go outside of them every other play? It makes no sense the play calling Nagy has been putting into Mitch. It's almost like he wants Mitchell Trubisky to fail because he is not satisfied with him as his starting quarterback.
Well, I think their offense is built very poorly in general. Tyreek Cohen is a very dynamic running back, but I don't know if he's an every down back when he's 5'5". And that is not meant as a slight again. It sounds like a slight, obviously. But when they're not able to run in between the tackles and they have a quarterback like Mitchell Trubisky who can barely throw the ball 5 yards down the field, they're also last in the league in average passing yards per play at 5.1, which is pretty embarrassing. So that and probably all of that is checkdowns to Tariq Cohen. So
well, they got Allen Robinson too. He pumps up the stats in garbage time. But no, there's no back in the league which is an every down back against that Rams front seven. That's the thing. You're going to run Aaron Donald and Clay Matthews all night. There is no reason to be calling plays the way he was. But I don't blame Mitch that much. He's been struggling. He's been injured. But Nagy is clearly the issue in Chicago. I think he's got to go.
You think was he coach of the year last year? Or is he candidate for it?
Candidate for it. Okay. Dwayne Casey was the coach of the year a few years ago for the Raptors and got fired that year. Coach of the year doesn't mean anything.
That's because he lost in the playoffs like so many years in a row.
What Nagy's doing? Either losing in the playoffs or not going to make the playoffs because of questionable offensive play calling. Get him out of there.
It really is sad to see that defense go to waste.
Gone. Defense is pretty solid. Defensive coordinator can stay.
I know, but I'm saying the defense is going to waste because their offense is so bad.
Because of Nagy.
If they had, I don't feel like it's. I think there's a lot of strain between the relationship of Nagy and whoever their general manager is. The general manager drafted Mitchell Trubisky, so I think Nagy came in saying, yeah, I could work with this. And people have seen this in media a lot. It's been a big narrative. And I feel like that narrative is probably true to some extent.
Well, I completely disagree with you. There's no point in arguing back and forth about saying the same thing over and over again. So I'm, again, going to switch gears and talk about the quarterback that the Chicago Bears might have because of his current draft situation.
And who he's talking about is Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback for Alabama. And to give you some backstory on Tua's injury, happened this past Saturday. Tua dislocated his hip, broke his nose, and got a concussion. The dislocated hip being the most significant injury, obviously. The hip completely dislocated out the back of the hip, fracturing the back of the hip. And more often than not, hip dislocations like this are only found in bad car accidents because the force needed to generate a dislocation of the hip is immense. So I imagine that also there's more damage. It's not exactly clear how they're saying the surgery went well, but it's not hasn't come out what they actually did surgery on exactly. So it's thrown up in the air. So. No, I'm saying like all the different pieces of his hip. So they didn't say the state of the cartilage in the hip, how much of the labrum is left in the hip. That has to do a lot with the function of the whatever
medical talk.
The labrum, the head of the hip that goes into the. I'm blanking
we'd
on.
We'd be lying to you
names of bones right
if
now.
We said we knew how badly he was hurt. I don't think anyone really knows how badly hurt he is. But unless they chop his leg off, Tua is still going to be a top 10, probably a top 5 pick. I don't even question the decision to leave him in the game, though. That's gotten a lot of flack for Saban when they're up 31. If you're a college athlete and it's the first half of a football game, you're still trying. You are still running up the score as much as possible.
Especially right after you lose to LSU.
Particularly if you've just taken a nasty loss and need to flex your muscles a little bit. This will not change anything about how football is played. I've heard some of that in the media. How, we may start benching our stars early in the first half. No, absolutely not. We are going to see the exact same style of football. Players will keep playing. This is just a freak injury. And people who are calling Saban a bad coach and poor Magic players are idiots.
Speaking of the way media reports injuries, something that has pissed me off with Tua's injury is that they're reporting that it's 3 months of No, sorry. He'll be back to athletic activity in 3 months, which blows my mind. I want to know what athletic activity means. The media is making it look like Tua's going to be back running around throwing in 3 months, and that is not happening. I don't want to bring it up because Isaiah will probably make fun of me for it, but I've had 2 hip labrum surgeries myself, and a hip labrum surgery is nowhere near dislocating your hip and fracturing it, as I stated the severity before. So in reality, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a year until he's back in football shape or anywhere close to
You're
football
also
shape.
not an Hawaiian super athlete like Tua, but
And I was going to say that. I was going to say clearly Tua is a million times more athletic than me. It was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft, but his injury is so much more significant than my hip labrum tear. I do not see how he's going to be back to athletic activity in 3 months. I wasn't able to run with confidence until 6 months after my second surgery.
have you ever been able to run with confidence?
Okay, I kind of walked into that one.
But best wishes to Tua and the Tagovailoa family. No, I said that wrong. Sadly, you may have gotten yourself back into contention for being on the Miami Dolphins. You hate
and you spoke on it a little bit, but I don't see a really bad team drafting him because, like I said, I think this needs to be a Jalen Smith situation where the team, whichever team takes him, I think they need to let him sit a year, recover, get back to anywhere close to NFL shape. Hopefully he does return to that. So, every injury is different. Every person's body different. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. We'll have to see how he comes back. But I think a team later in the first round, I don't think he'll drop in the second round, but,
we live in strange times. But anywho, Tristan has a story to tell us about a New York football giant.
So, my family came to visit me this past mom's, I think, 100th birthday. And they were staying in a hotel on NC State campus, the one on the Centennial part of campus, if you're familiar with NC State at all. And this is where the NC State football team stays the night before their games. I think it's to make sure they don't get in any funny business with parties and whatnot. And just so happens that New York Giants are on a bye week. And there's a New York Giant, NC State alum on the New York Giants team. And my dad had picked me up from my dorm, brought me over to the hotel. We're hanging out, about to go to dinner. And as we're leaving the hotel, I hear a guy say to my dad, "Hey, I love your shirt, man." And I'm like, what the fuck? What sweatshirt is my dad wearing? And then I look at who walking past us, massive man. And I look at my dad's sweatshirt. It's a New York Giants Super Bowl shirt. I double back, and I'm like, that's fucking BJ Hill as he's walking into the doors. So I felt like a jackass not realizing that a player on my favorite team was literally 2 inches from me and told my dad he loved his sweatshirt. So I just feel, it's upsetting to me. But luckily I'll have a funny story to tell if I ever get to meet BJ Hill again.
I doubt that'll happen, but here's the thing. This is Tristan's second time he has failed at getting an NFL athlete on Thicc Men Inc. Obviously with BJ Hill just now, but he could have gone out and tracked down Chad Ochocinco, who was in town for a golf tournament one weekend, which I was not around, but he refused.
That's a load of horseshit.
If I was there, I would have gone looking for him.
I don't have a driver's license.
Then walk. You've got 2 hip labrums which have been surgically repaired, don't you? Show some of that confident running.
But wherever the golf course was not within walking distance.
Well, like I said, confident running. But switching gears yet again, he is back, ladies and gentlemen. The man, the myth, the legend, Carmelo Anthony has made his return to the NBA. And we here at Thicc Men Inc. are ecstatic about this. As if this wasn't enough. He has started an NBA game, something many people said would never happen again. And while that game may not have been an ideal return to form for him, we are still happy to have him back in the league. When Carmelo's playing, the NBA is better.
Well, I guess the better place is 24 minutes with 28% from the field and 4 for 14 shooting. So he was pitiful. He did not have a good coming out party. And I think there's just a attempt by the Trailblazers to make their team look better. They're 5-10 on the season. People are expecting them to be a high playoff seed, probably, or not high playoff seed, middle of the pack with their backcourt and
No, I
CJ
said high.
McCollum
I was expecting
and
high.
Damian Lillard. Well, you were expecting high. Right now, they're not even looking like a playoff team.
Well, Dame's
So
hurt
this is
right
just an
now,
effort to put.
but keep going.
So I think this is just an effort to make their team look slightly better. Melo's not going to fix anything. And at this point, he's so horrifically average. It's almost painful to watch.
Yeah, horrifically average is not a bad thing per se. A few things of note I'd like to say about the game. Melo had one practice, that is in quotes, with his teammates. It was more like a pregame walkthrough before he played the game. He has a higher three-point shooting percentage than Steph Curry so far this year. He did not look terrible on defense, recorded a block, was not a total liability, which a lot of people were saying he was going to be. Actually played fairly well on that end of the court. And he made me a little bit of money because I bet he would not make the over-under of 10.5 points. So,
look at that.
Good times all around.
Isaiah getting a bet, right? What do you know?
Hey, man.
That doesn't happen too often.
I gamble on the Minnesota Vikings on Carmelo Anthony exclusively. But
haven't you wait. Haven't you been wrong on 3 Vikings bets betting against them now?
Almost right against Denver, but hey. Anyway, hopefully Melo can hang out for a while on the roster, doesn't get cut when Dame returns, and makes a little playoff run to end his career the way it should have been, like an NBA great. But keeping it with the NBA, ladies and gentlemen, we have a spectacular announcement. The 2 best players on the planet Earth are from Europe. That's right. Giannis and Luke have established themselves as a 1 and 2 this year. We're going to talk about Luka today. Giannis will be brought up at a later point. Luka is averaging 29.9, basically 30 points, 10.5 rebounds,
basically,
and 9.5 assists. Yeah, the Mavericks won the Trae Young trade. People who don't accept that are in denial. He completely out-everything the Golden State Warriors in the first quarter of the game he just played. More assists, points, and rebounds in the entire Golden State team, something which is very rarely done in a quarter. He is the youngest player with 35-point triple-doubles back-to-back. He has more than triple the number of triple-doubles Quinn James of the LA Lakers had at his age with 15. He is the youngest player to ever put up 300, 100, and 100 to start the year in his first 10 games. And he has dragged the Mavericks, whose second best player, Kristaps Porzingis,
the unicorn,
struggling heavily this year. He has dragged them to a 9-5.
He's dropping some fantasy points for me.
He has done a phenomenal job of elevating them to a 5th seed in the Western Conference. He is going to do something LeBron James could not do in his second year and bring his team to the playoffs. We have never seen a European of this caliber before. And I will say one thing before I let my co-host take over.
Is it my turn, Shannon?
Right now, we're having the debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. In 10 years, we will be having the debate between Michael Jordan and Luka Doncic. He is next up.
I don't know about all that with Luka being being better than LeBron James as far as legacy goes. I am on the same page with you as far as how impressive Luka has been. He's been incredible through his first 14 games. And I'm going to comment a little bit about where he was drafted. The GMs who took DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley before him probably have a 45 cal lodged in their throat right now. They are seeing what looks like to be at some version of LeBron James on the court. And he's only, how old is he, 20? He's only 20 years old. Putting up numbers like that, it's spectacular. But the only reason I have a bone to pick with you with the Hawks is that I don't think the Hawks are upset with their trade. Trae Young has been phenomenal as well.
He has been
he's
looking compared to Luka.
He's looking like the next Stephen Curry, averaging 8 points and 8.6 assists. Do you know how many seasons it took Stephen Curry to average 8 assists in his career?
I got a question for you. What is Steph Curry compared to LeBron James?
That is true. But, I mean, Stephen Curry is also the first unanimous MVP. So why can't Trae Young do it one day if he's putting up better numbers than Stephen Curry's 6th year in his 2nd season?
That is a good question, which I do not know the answer to. But
oh shit! Did I say something that
Isaiah's
no
getting
response
stared
for?
down by a guy in an SUV right now. Yeah, he's pulled right up to me. Let's see how this plays out.
Is he talking to you?
We're about to. Okay. Did you just pull up here? Or?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at my phone.
Way.
We're leaving that in.
We can leave that in. But.
That was hilarious. Did you think he was like roll? Were you like the corner of the lot or something?
He was like 3 feet away from my car and his car.
What? I'm confused. Was the lot completely empty?
It's pretty empty. I'm in the back of it.
And he just fucking rolls up
just
and is only
off.
looking at his phone. That's creepy as hell, yo. What if he was trying to mug?
I appear to be an individual who can get mugged? I am not a lesser
if he has a gun
like you with multiple torn legrams. I'm featured on ESPN.
Hey, they're repaired now.
Okay, you and your non-confident running would do great in a mugging. But
why'd I say that? You're just gonna say that all the time now.
That has been Thicc Man Inc. Roll outro.
Appreciate you all for watching. Like the video, subscribe, tune in next time.